Hi everyone, it's Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. Before we get started with this video, go ahead and click that subscribe button and that bell notification so that every time I post a video, you'll be notified of all of my videos. Today I will be making a card with the Leaves4Fall die set. Now this die set was recently released by the Stamps of Life. It does have a stamp set to go with it that has been out for a while now. I do not have the stamp set, so I will be only using the dies to make my card. And all of these dies come with the set. I did die cut a few of them out so you can see what they look like. So you have this tree which has no leaves on it because you can see that you can customize it using the various leaves that you see here in the die set. And it has all of these leaf dies. There are some big ones, there are some medium size, there are some small ones, there are some different styles. Some have shadow layers, some do not. So you can see the various leaves that it comes with. And I could see this die set being used, of course, for fall cards, which is what I'm going to make today. You can use them just, to say happy fall, or you can use them for a Thanksgiving card. You can even use this for a Halloween card if you die cut that tree in black and want to make like a spooky scene. I can even see this being used for a winter card because in the winter, many of the trees, if you live up north, they do not have leaves on them. So if you die cut this out, this tree out, you can use this definitely in a winter scene. So let's go ahead and get started making this card. I'm starting out with some Bristol Smooth cardstock, which I cut to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and I'm making just a background scene. I want it to kind of look like a sunset, so I'm putting some cranberry ink towards the bottom of this card layer, and I'm going to come in with some tangerine ink and just blend that there in the middle. And then I'm also going to use the banana ink, and then the last row of color will be my sunshine ink. Now if you have to go back over any of it, you can do so just to kind of blend those colors and make sure there's no gaps in the colors. And going over it again will also brighten up those colors to make them a little bit more vivid. I die cut 2 grass borders out of the artichoke Stamps of Life paper, and I'm just inking up the edges with some artichoke ink, and then I go back with my ink blending tool and just dab some ink on the top of those layers just to add some texture, just to make it look a little bit more dimensional since it is grass. I didn't want it to look so flat. I will set those aside. I did use some pattern paper and I die cut this wheelbarrow, which is from the Wheelbarrow to Stamp dies. And I die cut it out of the pattern paper and just inked up the edges there with the cranberry ink. And that paper is from the Hey Friend pattern paper pad. And then I took that same die and die cut just the wheel out of the cloud cardstock. And you see me just snipping away the inside of the wheel because I also die cut it out of the licorice cardstock. And I'm also going to snip away part of that wheel. And I'm just going to do some paper piecing. The shadow layer there, as you see there, is cut out of the ginger snap cardstock. So you can see I'm just kind of piecing these pieces together. The actual wheelbarrow is the pattern paper. I snipped off the wheel to that pattern paper, and I'm just going to piece in the black wheel, and then the inside will be with the cloud cardstock. So you see me here just gluing everything down to the shadow layer. Now this set also comes with stamps, so you could also take your stamp, you can stamp it out and you can color it if you didn't like to do the paper piecing. But since this card doesn't have any other stamped images, everything is just cardstock layers, I just wanted to maintain a consistent look and just use the cardstock on this card. Now the tree I die cut with the chocolate cardstock, and when you are die cutting your tree, because those branches are so thin, my suggestion is to die cut it with some double-sided adhesive on the back of the cardstock. And here I was just positioning where I want these grass borders to go. So one border is going to be flat against that card panel. So I'm just add some glue and then attach it so that it is flat against the bottom of that panel. I will flip it over and just trim off the excess cardstock. And then I'm going to take my tree, and you can see I did put the double-sided adhesive there, so I have to be careful when I take that up because those branches are so thin. And I'm going to position that on my card layer. I'm just kind of seeing how far down I want it to go because I want to leave room there for another layer of grass. So I'm just pressing that down really well. I die cut a bunch of leaves in various sizes in the cranberry, artichoke, tangerine, and banana cardstock. And I'm just inking the edges of those leaves with their corresponding inks. Next, I'm going to come in with my Misty because I want to stamp a sentiment on this background. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of laying out my card here just to kind of see where I want my sentiment. I don't want to have everything glued down because of the thickness of the wheelbarrow. If I try to stamp an image with that wheelbarrow on there, it might not turn out so well. So I just remove that, position my stamp where I want it, and I'm going to go ahead and ink it up. And this stamp is Warm Wishes. It's from the Wreath to Stamp set, and I'm using some chocolate ink. Now I did use Warm Wishes, which I wish I would have had a fall sentiment at the time I made this card. I didn't have any fall sentiments. I think like an autumn greetings or a happy fall would have been better, but I ended up going with the Warm Wishes just because that's what I had on hand at the time. So I'm going ahead and adding my wheelbarrow. You can see that it is extending off that card layer, which is not a big deal because I will be able to trim off the excess there, just trim off that handle. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my second layer of grass. Notice I'm just adding glue to the bottom portion of that, not to the actual leaves, because I'm going to end up sticking some pumpkins in between those layers. So I'm going to go ahead and just press that down really well. And then I'm just going to trim off the excess cardstock layer. And here I'm gluing down the leaves. I chose to use the big leaves on the tree branches in various colors. And I also, as I mentioned earlier, die cut a bunch of small leaves because those are going to go some in the wheelbarrow, some will be on the grass. I do use the pumpkin dies from the Goodies for Wheelbarrow, and I die cut those out of the tangerine cardstock, the 3 of them that you see there. And a few of those will go in the wheelbarrow, and I will have one there between those grass layers. So here I'm just kind of just gluing everything down. It's always best when you're making a scene card similar to this that you kind of lay everything out first on your card layer before you glue everything down, just to kind of see where you want everything to go. And to make sure everything, looks good within your scene. If you need to add or modify anything, you have time to do so before you just adhere everything down. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this die set, Leaves for Fall, also has a stamp set that matches it. And I will link that stamp set in my blog posting. So if you are interested in that stamp set, you will be able to click on the link and hop on over to the Stamps of Life website and see it there. Now I'm just finishing up gluing everything down, and then I am going to attach this card layer to my card base. I am going to be using a A2 size card base in the chocolate, which is the brown cardstock, and an A2 size card base is one that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So just glue this panel onto the card base. And since it's such a dark card base, and if you wanted to write on the inside, you really would have to use a white gel pen or something maybe metallic for the inside if you chose not to add a card layer to that inside panel. I chose to add a banana piece of a card layer, which measures 4 and 5 1/4. And I had some extra leaves, so I just decided to add some extra leaves there to the inside of that card. And then I go back to the front of the card, which you'll see here in a minute, and I add a couple extra leaves to that wheelbarrow. And that will complete this card. So if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.